Welcome to the channel. Our today's subject of discussion is weather sealing text, including weather sealing text will include water spray test, water immersion test, dust ingress test, humidity soak test, thermal cycling plus shock test, high pressure wash test, salt spray corrosion, and connector seal test. Weather sealing test. Weather sealing test is a critical validation step in the development and quality assurance process for motorcycles speedometers, both analog and digital. The test ensures that the speedometer remains functional, accurate, and safe under various environmental conditions, such as rain, humidity, dust, snow, and temperature variations. The main purpose is to verify the ingress protection of the speedometer housing against water, including rain, splashing, submersion, dust and dirt, humidity and condensation, temperature-induced seal expansion oblique contraction. The various standards which are to be followed are IEC 60529, that is degree of protection with given IP codes, which we shall discuss later on. ISO 20653, protection of electrical equipment on the road vehicles. OEM specific environmental test specification, that is the specifications prescribed by the different companies like Honda and Yamaha, etc. The common tests are IP65, IP66, IP67, or IP68, depending upon whether the speedometer must resist heavy rain, jet washing, or a temporary submersion. Water ingress testing. To start with, high pressure jet spray simulating rain or washing, immersion in water tanks, spraying of waters at different angles, that is 0 degree, 30 degrees, 45 degrees, and 90 degrees to test water intrusion from all directions. Dust ingress testing. Placing the speedometer in a dust chamber with fine talcum powder, then maintained airflow to force dust into the housing for several hour durations at 20 to 40 degrees centigrade. In case of analog speedometer, the key components which could be affected are mechanical dial movement, needle mechanism, gear train, backlight if any, and a protective lens. Thermal shocks plus humidity cycling. Thermal shocks would consider of alternating between hot and cold environments to simulate weather changes from minus 40 degree centigrade to plus 85 degree centigrade. Humidity cycling test would be high humidity 90 to 95% at elevated temperature of say 60 degrees centigrade for extended periods. Design focus areas for protection of speedometers are mechanical sealing using O-rings and gaskets, breather vents, corrosion resistance of internal parts, and condensation prevention via desiccants or pressure compensation membranes. Failure risk. Failure risk or water ingress causing needle to stick, corrosion of gears or needle shaft, fogging of dial lens with aesthetic and visibility issues, dust accumulations inside the housing. For digital speedometer, weather sealing considerations are key components which could be affected are PCB and microcontroller, LCD or LED display, connectors and wire harness, touch buttons or capacitive input if present. Design focus areas for protection of digital speedometers are potting or conformal coating of electronics, that is silicon or epoxy, waterproof connectors using waterproof connectors, that is Deutsch AM or AMP sober seal connectors, sealed housing with ultrasonic welding or adhesive sealing, gasket screens and sealed IP buttons, that is IP rated tactile or capacitive keys. Here, IP rated tactile refers to switches or touch sensitive components like buttons, keypads, or membranes that are tested and certified with an IP, that is Ingress protection rating, under the standards such as IEC 60529 or ISO 20653. The IP rated term, the IP rated or the component in this IP rated component is a certified against dust and water intrusion according to IP standards, e.g., for example, IP67, IP68, and IP69K. We shall explain this further in the upcoming slides. Tactiles are the components gives feedback like a click or resistance when pressed or touch responsive. Example, membrane switches, push buttons, or dashboards. Touch panels that must withstand rain, dust, or glove usage. Rubber dome switches on outdoor control units, etc. Failure risk in case of digital speedometers are short circuits due to water on printed circuit board, display malfunctions, that is ghosting or dimming, corrosion of terminals or connector pins, erratic readings due to moisture in sensor circuit. Test pass criteria would be the speedometer would be considered passed in case of no water or dust ingress into the internal component. Functional validation post-test, that is, speed readout, illumination responsiveness, if it is okay. Visual inspection for no fogging, there is no corrosion or component displacement. Electrical testing, there is no circuit or data corruption. Long-term components must remain sealed and functional throughout the product life cycle. Real-world simulation for these tests includes the examples like riding in heavy monsoon conditions, parking a motorcycle in snow or frost for many days, jet washing of motorcycle or scooter like bike washes, crossing streams or deep puddles. Conclusion: the weather sealing test is indispensable in ensuring the durability, reliability, and user safety for both analog and digital motorcycle speedometers. While the analog version requires sealing of mechanical parts, the digital version demands stringent protection of electronics. Elect- Effective sealing not only ensure performance under harsh environments, but also extend product life and reduces warranty claims. So, so far we have discussed this whole table shows the weather sealing test metrics. We have discussed water spray test, that is jet water from all angles, about 12.5 liters per minute at 30 kPa for 3 minutes. And it would be, speedometer would be considered as passed if there is no water ingress and it is fully functional after the completion of a test. Water immersion test. Sub, this is submerged speedometer in 1 meter water for 30 meter. This test is Ingress Protection 7. No leakage should be observed. Electrical components should remain dry, and in that case, it will be considered as a pass. Dust ingress test. Talcum powder for 8 hours airflow to promote penetration. No internal dust, and speedometer is fully functional. It would be considered as a pass. Humidity soak test. 60 degrees centigrade at 95% relative humidity for 96 hours. No condensation is observed, no fogging, electrical connections and everything are okay. It will be considered as a pass. Thermal cycling, thermal cycling from test from minus 40 degrees centigrade to plus 85 degrees centigrade with 30 cycles. And if there is no gasket damage, no fogging, the speedometer is fully functional, it would be considered as pass. High pressure wash test. 80 degrees water at 100 bar high pressure at different angles. Then, if no water ingress, display and buttons are fully functional, the speedometer is considered as pass. Salt spray corrosion test. 5% sodium chloride at 35 degrees centigrade. No corrosion of gears, screws, and connectors is observed. In that case, it would be considered as pass. Connector seal test. Subject connectors with signal applied. No leakage or signal degradation is observed. It is considered as pass. Now, this is supplementary material. That is this is sample weather sealing test report template. The report of the test report would consider The product name, speedometer, model numbers, analog or digital, test lab, test engineer, and test dates, say from 10 to 14th May 22, 2025. Water spray test. The water spray test was conducted by 6.3 millimeter using 6.3 millimeter nozzle with water 12.5 liter per minute for 3 minutes per one direction. No ingress of water was detected. Display and needle was fully functional, and the result is considered as pass. First ingress test, IP6. Setup, talc chamber, 8-hour duration, 25 degrees centigrade temperature under vacuum. Observation, test talc chamber. Talc chamber typically refers to a sealed or controlled chamber used for the application of talcum powder to materials such as rubber, plastic, or textiles, especially in industrial or manufacturing processes. Talc is a fine, dry mineral powder known for its lubrication and anti-stick properties. So, when the test is conducted, if the observation was that no visible dust inside the housing, the speedometer would be considered as pass. Immersion test. Immersion of speedometer in 1 meter deep water for 30 minutes. After the test, if digital unit remains dry internally and the display of speedometer is normal, the test result would be pass. Humidity soak test. The setup would consist of 60 degrees centigrade temperature, 95% relative humidity for the time of 96 hours. If no fogging or corrosion is observed, the speedometer is considered as pass. Thermal shock test. Setup consists of -40 degrees centigrade to 85 degrees centigrade for 30 cycles with 15-minute transition time. Observation is no seal cracks, lens remain clear, and in both the cases, if the speedometer is functional, result is considered as pass. So the final verdict according to this test report are whether sealing test pass for both analog and digital variants, units deemed robust against real-world weather exposure, approved by the concerned engineer on the date, say, May 14, 2025. Let us briefly talk about IP rating breakdown. IP65 refers to dust-tight water jets, and the conditions include road use in rain and basic sealing. IP66 dust-tight powerful water jets with reference to jet washing resistant. IP67 dust-tight temporary submersion in 1 meter water for 30 minutes. This is with reference to flooded roads and deep puddles. IP68 dust-tight long-term submersion refers to adventure motorcycles, for example, river crossing, etc. IP69K dust-tight high-pressure hot water jets refers to industrial cleaning and extreme washdown. Now the motorcycle speedometer weather sealing test was planned. The objective was to evaluate The weather sealing performance of motorcycle speedometers, that is analog and digital variants, under various environmental stress conditions such as water, dust, humidity, and temperature fluctuations. The test applies to both types of speedometer, that is analog and digital. Test items oblique components under test. Speedometer analog, mechanical needles plus dials are under test. Speedometer unit digital, LCD display with buttons are under test. Connector hardness, both analog and digital speedometers, OEM 8-pin waterproof connectors or any other type of connectors being used in both the types of speedometer, that is analog and digital. Test environments and equipment. Environment chamber for humidity and thermal cycling. Dust chamber with ISO A2 dust. Water jet spray system. Electrical continuity tester. High intensity light for fog inspection. Tools for tear down inspection. Tools for tear down or inspection. Test procedures. Water spray test IP5 and IP6. Use 6.3 millimeter nozzle at 12.5 millimeter liter of water per minute. Spray from all sides for 3 minutes. If there is no water ingress, speedometer remains functional. It is considered as pass. Water immersion test IP7. Submerge the digital speedometer in 1 meter deep water for 30 minutes. If there is no internal leakage and speedometer is fully functional, after test, it is considered as pass. Just ingress test IP6. Procedure. Exposure units to dust-laden airflow to sealed chamber for 8 hours. If there is no visible dust inside housing after disassembly, the speedometer is considered as passed. Humidity soak test. This is at 60 degree centigrade with 95% relative humidity for 96 hours. And if there is no condensation or electrical fault, display or dials are clear, it is considered as a pass. Thermal shock test. Thermal shocks from minus 40 degrees centigrade to 85 degrees to plus 40 to plus 85 degrees centigrade with 30-minute dwell at extremes. 5 minutes RAM, 15 minutes RAM, and 30 cycles total. Pass criteria. If there are no cracks, no warping, seal failure, no seal failure, or a component malfunction, it is considered as a pass. Salt spray corrosion test for analog test only. Procedure for with 5 minutes sodium chloride, that is salt mist, at 35 degrees centigrade for 48 hours in a corrosion chamber, in a salt spray chamber. If there is no rust on internal gears or needle assembly remains unaffected, lens remain clear, then the speedometer is considered as a pass. Connector leak test. Immerse connected harness in water, send signal, check insulation resistance. If there is no water ingress or no electrical leakage, the speedometer is considered as a pass. The test schedule was test planning and setup. It was done from May 18 to May 20 by engineer Rahul Sharma. Water and dust tests were performed from May 21 to May 22. Thermal and humidity tests were performed from May 23 to May 24 by Deepak Verma. Final evaluation and report from May 25 and May 26 by QA lead. The test deliverables as per plans are test logs and observation, visual inspection photographs, functional checklist, environmental chamber logs, and final test summary. The report would be signed. The test report will be signed and approved by QA lead, the role of quality assurance department, by the product owner, the speedometer division, by the test engineer of the validation team. Standards. Test standards which were referred in this discussion were IEC 60529. It was published by the International Electrotechnical Commission and defines the IP codes, that is, Ingress Protection Code. It classifies and rates the degrees of protection provided by mechanical casings and electrical enclosures against intrusion from solid particles, that is, dust and dirt, etc., ingress of water, that is, dripping, spraying, and immersion. IP code formats are IPX or Y. X refers to solid protection with a rating of 0 to 6, and Y represent liquid protection from 0 to 9K. Examples are IP65. IP65 protection refers to dust tight and protected against water jets. IP67 dust tight and protected against immersion up to 1 meter water. IP68 dust tight and protected against continuous immersion. IP69K protection against high pressure, high temperature water jets. The relevance of all these IP codes are speedometer cables, sensors, and connectors need protection from dust ingress for off-road motorcycles applications, protection from water sprays or immersion from rain, washing, and submersion. Validation of IP ratings like IP66, IP60, IP67, and IP68. The second test standard was referred in this discussion was ISO 20653. ISO 20653 is more specialized standard derived from IEC 60529, tailored specifically for automotive environments, that is, electrical components in vehicles, including motorcycles, scooters, and speedometers. If we compare both these standards, ISO 20653 and IEC 60529, the feature application focus of ISO 20653 is automotive, vehicles, and a motorcycle, etc. IEC focuses on general enclosures, industrial units, etc. High pressure wash test. ISO focuses includes IPX9K, that is 90 bar pressure, 80 degrees centigrade temperature. IEC only defines up to IPX8. Test conditions. ISO simulates real-world automotive use, where IEC focuses on general lab controlled conditions. Vibration and temperature. ISO focuses on harsh vehicle specific cycles, IEC not included. Common ISO 2065 ratings include IP5KX, IP6KX for dust ingress protection for vehicles, IPX4K, IPX9K refers to high pressure wash, that is, car wash and steam jet wash. IP6K 9K dust tight plus high pressure water jet protection frequently required in speedometer cables and electronic control units. They are relevant to speedometer testing as the standard ensure speedometer sensors, housing, and connectors survive against the against mud, dust, and water splashes, against steam cleaning, especially motorcycle and heavy-duty vehicles. Frequently tested for IP6K7 or IP6K9K. Summary: IEC 60529 versus ISO 20653. Scope: IEC refers to general electrical component, while ISO 20653 specially focuses on automotive electrical components. Solid object protection, yes, from 0 to 6. Yes, K added to denote vehicle focus. Water ingress protection, IEC, yes, from 0 to 9. Yes, up to IPX9K. High pressure or water jet test, IEC, no. ISO 20653, yes, IPX9K. Automotive focus. ISC has no focus on automotives, whereas ISO 20653 specially focuses on automotive vehicles. In speedometer motorcycle testing, IP codes based on these standards might include IP66, that is dust plus strong jets, IP67, again temporary immersion, IP69K steam jet resistance, which is crucial for motorcycles and trucks. So just to repeat, what was meant by the word IP? The word IP stands for Ingress Protection. It is part of the standard system usually to classify the protection level of electrical and mechanical enclosures against the intrusion of solids like dust, dirt, or hands or finger, etc. Liquids like water, rain, or high pressure spray, etc. After IP, ingress protection, the first digit represents protection against solid objects. For example, 6 is dust tight. Second digit 7, protection against liquid water. 7 represents immersion up to 1 meter depth of water. Examples of IP rating. IP54, protected from limited dust plus water spray. IP65, dust tight plus protection from water jets. IP66, IP68, dust tight plus protection from long-term immersion. IP69K, dust tight plus protection from high pressure plus protection against high temperature steam jets used in ISO 20653. Why IP is important? In products like speedometers, sensors, connectors, or display units, the IP rating indicates whether the device will survive in real-world conditions like off-road dust, rain or submersion, high-pressure washing, etc. Here is the comparison of Here is the comparative infographic for IEC 60529 versus ISO 20653, which is self-explanatory and we have already discussed. With this, we conclude our discussion on the subject of weather sealing test. Our next subject of discussion would be odometer tamper resistance and verification. Thank you and thank you very much.